Hi, everyone. Mike White here. Welcome to this week's vlog post. Last week was a crazy week with 4th of July. We had some of the unemployment numbers come early on Wednesday. We had the monthly jobs report on Friday. Again, we've talked about it before, and you've heard me repeatedly complain about government agencies and their calculations and their numbers and whatever. But we're really finally, getting a consensus of people who are starting to understand that the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the BLS report, might be better called basically lying statistics. Because once again, we see in this report that they've had to go back and they've had to readjust numbers down again by hundreds of thousands of jobs. And it's not the first time. And they go back and they go back, and it's not just quarterly. Sometimes it's a year later. The job numbers that have been coming out, many people have looked at and couldn't understand how they were arriving at these numbers, because if you talk to business owners, if you looked at people across the country and asked them, the math never seemed to be right. The numbers never seemed to be right. And, my opinion has been, since they've been working with the algorithm from ADP, I was much more comfortable with the numbers from ADP sharing with us, what job numbers and employment numbers really look like. And certainly they haven't had to go back as the BLS has had to and just literally go back and adjust their numbers. And I'm not talking minor numbers. We're talking hundreds of thousands of jobs. And so it gets to a point where I think somebody's got to come up with the fact that they either figure out their algorithm or their methodology or what it is that they're doing, or maybe they just save this country a tremendous amount of money by getting rid of everybody and forgetting, what it is that they're trying to do, and just use the ADP numbers and let's just move forward. It's also really important to understand that the numbers that they put out there being off by this really throws the markets into a loop, because by the time they go back and make corrections to prior data, the damage has already been done. The markets have already reacted. And the amazing part about this is, and what gets missed in all of this stuff, the euphoria of, oh, look at all these jobs we're creating, is if you don't spend the time to dig into it, or if you don't go to a place where you can look at analysts who are looking at this to give you this information, you're going to look at these job gains and realize something that most people don't know about in this country is the fact that we've been losing full-time jobs at a very alarming rate. And the reason it's not apparent is because the BLS just counts a job as a job. They don't care whether it's full-time or part-time. And so while we're losing all kinds of full-time jobs, those jobs are being offset by a growing number of part-time jobs. And I think it's really important that you pay attention to this, because if you do these algorithms with these seasonal adjustments and whatever, they give you these unemployment numbers, but then they do a household survey, and depending on who they talk to and what the answers they get and blah, blah, blah. And so you would look at that jobs report and basically sight unseen, you would think everything was fine, and then they've had to adjust. But under the radar is, and again, it happened on a Friday in the middle of a holiday, the unemployment number rose to 4.1%. So how are we creating all these jobs, all these people taking all these jobs? How will these jobs be? And then unemployment is increasing by some strange reason. And we can talk about, people coming into and leaving the labor force and blah. The algorithm, the methodology, whatever it is that they're using is just not making any sense. And it's high time that they figure this stuff out. And that's part of the reason of the blog post is to inform you about when things are happening, when the information is coming out, where you can go to look to find a deeper dive into some of this data, or have a conversation about it, or be aware of what is out there and what people are saying about it, and how you can answer these questions. Because ultimately, knowing the data, and I talk about this, the numbers, the nonsense, and the knowledge, right? BLS numbers have been, for lack of a better term, have been nonsense. And you have to have the knowledge to know where to look and to see and to compare, and look for information that tells you the why behind things. Because without knowing the why, you can fall into, a group of people who are just accepting what is being said without paying attention to what's happening. And it's really important that you know this. And you got to know when these reports are going to come out, and how the Fed and how others look at this, how the markets look at it, and to have an idea of what the markets are going to do in reaction to the numbers, depending upon what way they come out. So again, today we've got, we're talking this morning, we've got regular initial claims and continuing claims, which are always important. And today we've also got the CPI numbers will also come out, which are very important. And tomorrow, on Friday, we're going to get the PPI report. And those things, as you well know, can move markets. So pay attention to what's happening, and pay attention to what's going on, because it is important. And last on the list of topics I want to talk to you about today is something you better be paying attention to. Is we're a little more than 5 weeks away from the NAR agreement, the NAR settlement agreement, having to go into play. And I don't know about you, but I have yet to see. I've yet to see any official documentation. I've yet to see any of the agreements about how this is all going to function between buyers and sellers and real estate agents and their commissions. To my knowledge, I haven't been able to locate any official paperwork or documents or language explaining how the commissions are going to be done, explaining to people, that you have to have the buyer's brokerage's agreement. I haven't seen a copy of the buyer's brokerage agreement. I haven't seen acceptable, quote unquote, acceptable languages by either the MLS or the states themselves. Because the simple questions is, how do I need a different letter for each property? Do I need how long are the letters good for? Can I rescind the letter and sign a new one? There's a lot of things that are out there that we're 5 weeks away from, and yet, crickets. I've talked to local real estate agents. I've talked to my loan officers around the country who've talked to their real estate agents. They've seen nothing official, nothing on paper, nobody describing what the forms are going to look like and how to explain them. And oh, by the way, what happens to all the existing agreements? People who are already listed their properties, and now during the course of their listing, do all those listings disappear? Do people have to relist? What are they grandfathered? Be nice if people knew what was going on, because your agents and yourself, you're going to have to explain these things. Somebody's going to have to explain these things. And again, we're 5 weeks or so away from this going into effect. So again, if you see anything, if you get anything, please share. And again, it's Mike, imtcoaching.com. I'd love to talk to you more about this stuff. If you see something, share, because we'd all like to know. As always, reach out if you have any questions or comments. Again, Mike at imtcoaching.com. We'll talk to you again next week. Take care.